Welcome, guys, to the OTP podcast, where we bring you unfiltered and uncensored football chat. I'm your host, O, joined by my co-host, Chinny, and Mr. Y. How you guys feeling?
Yeah, my man's feeling good today, Picked up grinded out a victory. My team grinded out a victory last night, so I'm ready to talk about that. It's been a good weekend.
Mr. Y?
Yeah, bro. Just like Chinny said, man, I'm blessed. We got the 3 points. That's all that matters. You know what I mean? We keep rolling. Seeing the Ops lose. You know what I mean? So it's a brilliant weekend, man. Brilliant weekend.
I hear that. And I'm great. As you see, I'm Mr. International. We've gone international, lads.
The palm trees behind you.
You know what I'm saying? I'm in the shade, or you would have seen a better view behind me, but I'm feeling right now. I'm just glad to get back to the business end of what we do best. I think we should roll with the first topic.
Angie out coaches Ten Hag as Spurs brush United. I got some stick on this one on Twitter, because
Start there. What was your stick?
Yeah, Spurs are the ops, innit? But you know how I feel about United, so it got a bit political. Man are telling me you can't support both. The big man, I wanted United to get smashed, and that's what happened, bro. That's what happened.
Bro, no, I hear it. Because you don't really have that many interactions with Tottenham, innit? And it's not like we compete with Tottenham either. Like, it's always been a United thing. Like, when it's going for titles, it's like Liverpool and Everton. You know what I mean? It's local, but it's not really like a rivalry, like where you actually got things to compete about or things to shout about. Yeah. Obviously, we've been trashed for the last few years, so there was top 4. But other than that, Tottenham not winning.
But how can you scream that though? Like, I feel like this is what football is now. Like, where you could start by saying like, oh, you're just happy to just finish above your rivals. Like, I want to. If I'm not winning something, like, all right, it's like I don't want silver. I don't want second place in a race. I don't want bronze. I want the gold. Or otherwise, next season it's nothing. Oh, runners up. Okay, all right. It don't mean nothing. So when we went, for example, my team went to all these finals, and fans were saying we've been to how many finals in the last year. It means nothing if you don't win it. It's a good, like, okay, we step up from here, but if you ain't won it, it means nothing. So them celebrating, and I like some Tottenham fans, but a lot of them are deluded. It's, oh, we're back against Spurs, and they're like, bro, Spurs are happy because they made it to one Champions League final and finished above Arsenal, twice or whatever it was. I don't even know. I don't pay attention to this. I don't know how many times they finished above you guys.
They finished above us for quite a few seasons, I can't lie. But you know what it is? That's right.
Yeah, but is that enough to celebrate?
But that's football tribalism. Like, that's the whole point of it. Like,
is that how low you're?
Bro, when you ain't got much, you gotta be grateful for the little you have in life, innit? You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? If you can't get 3 meals and you get 1 meal, bro, or you get just a dessert, you gotta be grateful for that dessert. You know what I'm saying? You can't be ungrateful. You know what I mean? So
what I do want to say though is we'd ended last when we did the tactical analysis of going into this game. We spoke heavily on Ten Hag being able to implement his football style, and also if he sticks or if he twists. And we all thought he would change his tactics. We thought McTominay would start, and etc. So starting there, would you say that was, obviously we know what the scores was in the end, but right?
The Don is on some serious odd setup because he went with the same 11, Like, I don't know what he was. Like, if you've watched, obviously they would have watched videos of the Tottenham Brentford game, and they saw the way Basuma was manning that game. Maddison was growing into it, creating chances. in the Tottenham-Brentford game, and that's just in the middle of the pitch. You would have thought, okay, we played against Wolves and got outdone in the middle. Let's shore it up a bit and start with a good base and then build on from there. And they were away from home United. So you kind of want to start, obviously not concede too many chances, try and create a couple of your own on the counter. You know, you got Rashford, you got Garnacho, you got players that can play on the break. So when he went with Mount, Fernand, like these men were non-existent. Because Mero was on his knees, bro. Basuma had done running rings. It was actually, I don't know what he was thinking, but whatever he was thinking it was just stupidness. And then on top of that, Spurs put that Sarr in the middle, who's just another. His legs are outrageous. Man was running the whole game, and it was just United couldn't keep up. Because Mero's 31 and he looks about 40. It's madness. He can't do it himself in the middle. It was absolute madness. Suicide management from Ten Hag. It was suicide.
You know what, yeah, I think firstly, yeah, even as an Arsenal man, I need to sit here and firstly, I want to praise Tottenham and I want to praise Ange because he's been there, a couple months, and he's already stamped his philosophy. Like, it's a complete contrast to how they were playing before under Conte. They're building out from the back. They're playing possession football. They've got their fullbacks inverting. So it's a completely different way of playing. So it's not even like there's any similarities. So for him to have established that so quickly, you got to recognize it and big it up. You know, we saw some outstanding performers: Basuma, I think Destiny, Sarr, Maddison. I mean, Maddison shat on Mount, and it's interesting to see because obviously when it comes to the England setup, it's always Mount getting the shine and Maddison getting left at home. But Maddison showed there's levels to this thing on Saturday.
Levels.
Yeah. I mean, I was impressed with Tottenham in terms of their energy. I still feel they need another striker. Richarlison's absolutely garbage. Garbage. Yeah. He can't do anything really. The ball don't stick with him. He can't link up play. His movement wasn't great. He offered absolutely nothing. It was almost like every time he got the ball, it would just come back straight back. And that's the last thing you need. I thought Son was... I got a bit of an issue with Son in this formation because I feel like he's not really a touchline winger.
Bro,
and the way...
become irrelevant. Like, even when he cuts inside, his shots are a bit... Like, he's just a bit weak. No final pass. He's not really dribbling past anyone. He's not even like cutting in and trying to bend it. He's just a player on the pitch.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah, with Son, I think it's a thing where he's not really a winger. I think he's an inside forward. That's the way I kind of view Son. I view Son as somebody who, when there's space in behind to run in, if you find him, he'll come inside and he'll finish. Or if you allow him, if you create space with an overlap, if he cuts in and he creates that shot separation, his finishing is top notch. But if you leave him one-on-one to take on a fullback, I don't think that's where he shines. I don't think, for me, Son's best attributes are finishing, ball striking, and shot separation. So maybe just creating that yard to take that shot off. And he's not really going to do that on the flank. I think he might be better off being moved central and then using someone else on the wing. I'd rather see Richarlison on the left wing than see Son there because Son literally...
Richarlison's better out there as well. Like I called it for the start season. I was very surprised he played Son out wide, and I agree with you because the style of play, that's why him and Harry Kane became so like dynamic and so good because he was able to bounce off Harry Kane and running behind and have Kane do that work, and he comes on and finishes. That's it, the plane of strengths. I'm really surprised that he ain't swapped them two, or he didn't start with them two like that. And Richarlison looks lost. He looks like a fish out of water. Sometimes you don't know if he should be coming, you don't know if he's running behind. It's like he's the only one who's not really understanding his actual role. And when he does when he gets in the right position to get it, he's not sticking with him. And I'm not worried because I feel like I don't really care in it. But I feel like as a footballing fan, I'm looking at him thinking he's not the right person now. And bring Son in there.
Yeah, but you know what? If you put a Son through the middle, it's like the same argument as if you put like a Rashford through the middle. His hold-up play and bringing others into the game is not going to be the best. Like if you try and play it into his feet and he's up against the strong centre back who likes to nip in front of the player as the ball's coming in. That's not his game. He's going to try and run in behind, and teams are not always going to allow that space. So I understand why you want someone that can control the ball, lay it off, spin in Richarlison, but Richarlison's obviously not putting that. He's not doing it enough.
Your son's being with.
And then plus, Spurs they play a Godi left back, but he inverts as well, so he doesn't really offer the overlapping run. He offers the inverted, the underlapping run, which does not help Son in terms of cutting in.
Yeah,
so it's a bit of a hard one.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think although I see a similarity to Rashford, but I think Son's a bit different in the sense of Son's a bit more smarter with movement. I think Rashford is literally. I was having this conversation with a friend of mine. I was like, Rashford is just Theo Walcott 2.0. That's what he is to me. Like, that's the way I look at Rashford. Like, he's a man where you put him up front, they're useless. Yeah, you put them up front, they're useless. There's nothing they offer to the game. They just can't do it. You put them on the wing, you leave them space behind to run at. That's where they shine. You put a through ball and you let him run onto it and finish. That's where we see prime Rashford. Obviously, Rashford's better at shooting outside the box, a bit of dribbling. I'd say Theo's a better striker, better finisher. But they're very similar in terms of the playing styles. There's not much difference between the two. And that's the way I looked at it when I was watching that game. Rashford offered nothing. And for me, that's a damning indictment on Ten Hag. I mean, Rashford was their most potent player last season. I know you haven't got a striker. I know your striker's injured. However, why are you shifting your best player from the left wing and putting him up front? And you're basically negating his strengths and you're negating the man that really carried you last season. It just doesn't make sense to me. I've seen them play Sancho false line, and that could be a way to get the best out of your star player or your most potent player. So for me, it just doesn't really make sense. And when you compare what Ange has done to what Ten Hag has done, it's another damning indictment, because it's almost like, how are we seeing Rashford? How are we seeing Ten Hag's football struggling and Ange is thriving already in a few months? And I said this season, like, I was somebody that said this season, all I want to see from Ten Hag is philosophy. I want to see a style of play. I want to see a way in which he can implement his style onto that team, and then obviously then win a trophy. That would be the minimum expectations for me, and I'm not even a United fan. But when you're not even doing the basics and you're still looking like, a fish out of water, I think that says it all.
That's the conversation we had before, innit? That was what I was going to bring up. I'm glad you brought this, because this is my next thing I was going to say. Is we spoke heavily on being adapting and seeing your style of play. Now, we saw Ange talk about, you can see the type of football I'm trying to play, and it's only 2 games in. Obviously, you forget preseason, you could see it, where they're resilient against Barcelona and they played well in their preseason. But you can see their style of play that they're trying to play now. You can see it early. You saw it from game 1. You can see the what everyone was understanding their roles. Going to United, manager, I still don't see that. And that's the thing. That's why we had that we couldn't agree on style of play and what we should see. I'm still not seeing the style of play. This is no different to me than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. All of that, like, it's no difference for me. It's very bland football. It's very, do you know what I mean? There's no difference for me. I can't change.
But Ten Hag needs to put his best players, his most effective players, not his best player, his most effective players in positions that they can affect the game. Mm-hmm. Bruno's not an 8. So if you need to accommodate Bruno, he either needs to be in a front 3, which is not obviously his best position either, but it keeps him out of the middle of the pitch to avoid playing midfield conundrums with other teams. Or you put him in a 10 and you put 2 6s behind him, or a 6 and an 8. But ideally 2 6s behind him, and he gets to play 10, and he basically has a free role to create.
But they got the personnel for
that. You put Rashford, and then you play Martial through the middle. You play Sancho through the middle, but you don't move your best players to accommodate. Like, you're moving Rashford to the middle to accommodate Garnacho. Like, where does that make sense? Like, it makes no sense. What they did was crazy. Anthony,
I don't even think they did it to accommodate Garnacho. I just feel like the manager just can't think of something, and this is why I'm so critical of Ten Hag. I think he's done it because he hasn't got a striker, and he just thinks who's the next up to play striker from what I have, like who's more in the mold of a number 9, and he's gone Rashford, and it's almost like he's just gone for the most easiest option. When in reality, why are you touching your best player and moving him out from his most comfortable position? It just logically doesn't make sense to me. And we saw it. He didn't do nothing. Rashford offered nothing.
Pre-season, where he's tried other personnel up front, just shows it was okay. I'm just gonna go with this. You know, this is what is. He's the next person in line. I can't rely on Martial. Well, this is what we're gonna do because it makes no sense.
It's crazy, but back to the game, the actual game. Like, we played the game. They played the game. It was very open. There wasn't any like tactical nous. Like, we can big up Angie as well, but all I saw was a very open game from two of our best teams in the league. Quotation mark. But I'm telling you, if they play that way, if them two teams played that way against Man City, against Arsenal, maybe not Liverpool, but against them two teams right now, I'm telling you, they're getting torn to shreds because it's a silly way. It's too open. So it was nice to watch as a neutral. As a neutral, it was nice to watch because I just want to see some goals, some open football. But you play against my team like that, you're getting torn apart because there's no tactical know-how of how to shut the other team down, how to implement your style of play. Tottenham ran everything through Basuma, and Maddison just drifting here, there, and everywhere, and that's cool. But when you're playing against a team that has an actual tactical know-how on how to break down these players and position themselves well, that ain't going to work. So I tweeted something like, it's all well and good that Tottenham won 2-0, but them two teams as two of the better teams in our league, it's not good for the Premier League. It does not look good.
Good, bro.
Right. I just want to shout out Basuma as well, because when you're looking at a market where CDMs and sixes are going for hundreds of millions, you know, you got Decore being quoted at 70, you know, Caicedo 115, Rice, etc. For him, 25 million. We saw the performance he put out yesterday. A few days ago. That was top notch. I mean, we saw the Basuma that shone at Brighton, and he was shining at Brighton in not a De Zerbi system, which is, in my opinion, a lot more easier and to shine in because it's so special, and the way he manages is something else. I think Tottenham have got themselves a heck of a player, and they got him for a bargain price, considering the market and where it's at now.
It'd be crazy money right now.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Basuma's always been a special player. Like, imagine Basuma for Liverpool right now. I think he'd be perfect for you lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he can dribble. He's got composure on the ball. He defends. He presses. You know, he's got a shot on him.
He's a pass as well. I feel like he'd fit a lot of systems as well.
Yeah, he's a top player. He can be a top player. I think the one problem I have with Basuma is his slight, like, he plays with an arrogance, which is cool, but he's not there yet to play with that. He doesn't know when to switch it and switch off. So against United, I was winning 2-0. I saw him start whipping out the steppies and whatever he was doing. But big man, you're playing for Spurs. You're not that good yet, bro. You've won one game. Don't be coming with this madness. Like, it's stupidness. But
no, I love that. You know, me personally, I love that. I like players that got character and play first.
No, you wouldn't like it if you saw Declan Rice doing steppies because we're winning 2-0.
But what I mean is that I've always seen Basuma do them things there. So for me, it's not unnatural. I'd be pissed off if I saw Declan doing it because that's not his game. He ain't played like that ever. So I'll be like, what are you doing? This ain't you. But if you've seen Basuma, if you've seen how Basuma's come up, you know that he's got that to his game, and he's always had that to his game. He's always had those type of dribbling, step overs, little flicks.
No, I'm not saying that. There's a time and a place. There's a time and a place, and sometimes I think he just needs to chill. Like, it's one game. You've won one game of football this season, okay? One game.
Oh, enjoy it though. But shit on your opponent. That's what it's about though. Football's about, you know, kicking a man when he's down. That's what we do, right? United lose. We all shit on United fans, right? That's what it's about. So I rate it. You know what I'm saying? He's on the pitch and he said, "Look, I'm gonna put the ball through Casemiro's legs, and there's nothing he can do about it on the edge of the box. Yeah, I'm gonna do a nice little flick there. I'm gonna take the piss with my turns. I'm gonna play my game, and there's nothing you lot can do to stop me." And that's what that's what you want, and that's what you pay money for. Like if I'm a fan, I want to see. I'll pay money to see ballers ball.
I think before we move on to the next point, though, just want to touch on Garnacho. Like he's keeping what 70, 80 million Sancho out the team, and Roadrunner, because that's what he looks like. He's just a Roadrunner. There's no end product in his finishing. Man's just skippy. Like there's nothing for him. His decision making is horrific. Man. Like he's so good at cutting in, doing a man up, but once he does the man, there's nothing there.
I'm there.
He needs to be a super sub. I think he's not really. His game's not suited to start right now. I feel like with tired legs, that level of pace that he has, the ability to run at players, stretch the game, that's where he'll shine. But when it's the beginning of the game, there's not much he offers. Like you said, he hasn't got end product. He's just speed merchant. You know, R1, you know, like that's all it is. Like R1 stuck and he's just running.
R1, I don't know what FIFA game you're playing, brother.
Well, I ain't played FIFA in a minute. What is it now?
But yeah, man, free up Sancho, because they got him locked up there, and it's sad still. But yeah, I'm happy with the Spurs win. I wanted United to lose, and I wanted them to lose in a convincing way.
And it's not like you got lucky. United should have won. Yes, you lost. You deserve to lose. You won.
Yeah. I guess that brings us to the next game, where we look at 10-man Liverpool as they overcome Bournemouth with Salah hitting the score sheet. OJ, your team. I know you got a lot to say today.
You know what? I'm gonna let Mr. Y go first.
Why me? Why me?
Because you're the only one that did that I felt at the time about the game. You said we'll win, but you said it wasn't gonna be convincing. It was gonna be a very harder game. But I got my points, but I will let someone else, and because I could be here all day.
Again, for me, it was a game where Liverpool outgunned their opponents. I mean, nothing surprises me when it comes to Liverpool. Their midfield defense is always open. Teams can attack it. Bournemouth started bright. I think they scored in the first minute, which was offside, right? Yeah. And then they scored again a few minutes later. Nothing. Again, like I said to you, I don't think you're going to be that spectacular this season because there is no balance to that Liverpool team. It's just two levels of extreme. Brilliant going forward, horrible at the back. And until you plug up that midfield, until you give that defense some protection, you're always going to have these problems. And even towards the end of it, I saw, and one of the players that I was talking about midweek last week was Hamid Traore come on. And Konate was really lucky to not give away a penalty when he ran at him in the box and he just dived in. And had those type of players been available, I think it would have been an even trickier game for Liverpool because they had lost 2-3 of their best players were not playing that game.
Let's just talk about the game and what actually happened.
But I do want to shout out. I do want to shout out Dominic Szoboszlai. I thought he was a standout performer. I've always liked the look of him. Tall frame, good dribbler, ball carrier, interplay, connects the game very well. I liked what he does in terms of he overlaps on that right-hand side, which allows Mo Salah to kind of come inwards. So it just adds a different dynamic to your attack. Yeah. And it's something that I myself would like at my own current team because sometimes I feel like we don't have that, which would allow a right-footed right centre mid to overlap and allow.
We got that, bro. We got that. We just don't use it.
Yeah, well, but that's what I'd like to see. Yeah, but
no matter what it is, yeah, and everyone watching, it's always it refers to Arsenal.
Hey, bro, listen,
Liverpool and Bournemouth.
Arsenal. Hold on, but the reality is I just praised your team and said there was something that I would want from it. Anyways, let me go back to it. Anyways, powerful. Listen, he's powerful, good engine as well, big stature, good feet. I mean, the penalty he died for, but yeah, let's keep it 100. That was soft. That should never be a pen. The contact on there was minimal. But it was a strong performance, and I thought he was just standout performer. I thought Endo came on as well, and it was a decent cameo from him. He was passing the ball around, done the simple things well. I mean, there's not much you can extract from that small cameo, but he was neat on the ball. He was in the right positions. He showed he understands the role, and he's better suited to that role than anybody else's. Klopp again playing. Who did Klopp play number 8 again? It was Gakpo.
There was no change. Same team. There was no change.
That's what I'm saying. He's starting to remind me of Wenger, man.
Yeah.
He's starting to remind me of Wenger.
Take that deep breath.
Bro,
but listen, he's starting to remind me of Wenger. Like there's no variety in the tactics.
You know what he's doing though? He's telling the board, yo, this is what I have to do because you are not buying the players that I need. So I'm gonna make sure that you can see the problems, so you don't go and fix the problems.
That's risky though, you know.
Yeah.
It's a risk, but it's a risk. What else are you gonna do? Because you're gonna cover a gap, like you're gonna cover the hole, and then that hole's gonna get wet, and the same thing's gonna go through it anyway, bro. So they need to sort it out.
Yeah.
But Klopp's a company man, so I don't even know if he's doing that personally. Like I say, there's a lot of similarities between him and Arsene Wenger, a lot, and their stubbornness. Like I would rather it'd be better off using a youngster or someone else than putting someone who has no understanding of that position to be playing it. It's so attack minded, and it's the reason why you lot are not comfortable defensively because you haven't got enough players in midfield that have a defensive bone in their body who understand they need to go back and protect their centre backs or their wing backs and etc. And that's what's going to be the issue. If you don't bring in players that have that understanding, it's going to continue to happen over and over again.
Natural. I think for me, the first 20 minutes summed up the team sheet was the first 20 minutes summed up the team sheet as well. I said even though this is our back four that's going to play, and I feel like we're in a position where it's just about that protection in front of, in front of someone to protect the back four, and you can see it from that team sheet. We talked about, and I tweeted it. I said Klopp has blood in his hands, and I think and a lot of fans didn't like the what I said because they just assumed I was trying to war. But my thing is like, okay, you went to Stamford Bridge and you played a team that was kind of shaky. No one, Gakpo should never have started in that camera, in that role. Sorry, it made no sense in the middle of the pitch. Now it's your choice to say, okay, we got lucky because Chelsea should have won that game in my eyes. We got lucky. We got into a game against Bournemouth, and this has been a game where you expect to win at Bournemouth regardless. We all said Liverpool's going to win. It's not going to be as easy. It's a game we could have tried something different. Could have showed his tactic.
Just to stop you there, they went.
Thiago. The only reason he started training, so they're not officially like ready to start playing yet. But he'll be in this. He'll play. He'll have a big role to play in across all competitions. But and I think this was a big shout out. Like Klopp can only control the team sheets and whatnot. That's something he has full control over. And the team sheet screamed, "Fake it till you make it," or like,
help me. Help me.
But I'm with Mr. White. I just feel like Klopp did even. Klopp said, "All right, this is my team. I'm playing." I don't think is that. Yeah, we know we need a number 6, but this is my team. And I feel like I don't know if it's because we got all attackers fit right now, and he's like trying to fit everybody in because you can't really drop Gakpo because he had a good season. But my thing is like, my problem with it is what Klopp can control. I don't think he's doing correct. Like,
well, you're going to play number 6 next game because you have no choice.
Like now, it's not exactly. We're not in a point where people are walking to our team because they have to play, not because they are playing well or there's competition. And that's one of the issues I have with this team. To compete, you've got to have somebody pushing somebody, or we didn't have recognized number 6. So the first 20 minutes we were awful, all over the place, it was awful. And the funny thing is, McAllister's playing well, but imagine like him on the ball he's actually such a good player that once we free him and get number 6, you're gonna see so much great things because he's so confident, comfortable on the ball. And Dominic was my man of the match, but I need to shout out to Robbo as well because I grilled him last especially the first half last game, and I feel like he had a very solid game as well. They were my two favorite players. Obviously, we started slow. Jota started quite slow, but once we picked up, we got in that game. It was we just blew them apart. Like, and then obviously the last 10 minutes, I think we got a little shaky, but Endo had a very, 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 very good, as good as a cameo you could think. Again, there's not much you can take from it, but I feel like I looked at things like him just looking behind him, looking left and right, where he filled the gaps, things like that, and he was doing that a lot. He made a lot of interceptions and a lot of tackles that then he was able to pass the ball and like start attacking from it, which I ain't seen in a long time. Which it should happen. You have your number 6, they win the ball and they play a nice pass. You're attacking, and you go from a great interception on a tackle to attacking, and I ain't seen that in so long. I actually forgot what that was like. So it was nice to see that. But I think it's a smart signing. We still need to bring in a number 6 because it's going to be a long season. There was time. The Premier League is definitely a lot more physical. As he started strong, but you can see in the midst of the game, it's a little bit like how you can see he didn't have enough time to train and whatnot, and we got really lucky. The red card, crazy.
We'll talk about officiating because there's been like obviously Arsenal, we got a red card in the game as well. Man United didn't get a penalty given this weekend, which was arguably a penalty. There's been a few mad decisions. For me, it seems like the officials don't really know what's going on. It's a bit annoying to watch, but
even the this.
When have they though? That's the question.
I saw that and I didn't see the players get booked for that. Obviously, the timing for the yellow card, it's just weird for you guys' game. But going back to Liverpool, I think Bournemouth played well. I think Bournemouth pressed well at the start, and then they kind of like juiced out because we then kicked into another gear. Still, I don't think it was a strong showing. I think it's a perfect opportunity for Klopp to kind of like try a new tactic. We said maybe put Trent in the middle again. I haven't seen the best of Trent in the inverted. I think he played better in inverted last season. I guess the back in last season, I still think he's still a little. He still looks a little bit like he ain't grasped it again. This in the last 2 games, but it's still early doors. Maybe with a proper like 6, it will be easier for him. Is what I expect, so he can pass forward. But there's a lot of stuff that I still don't think he's a centre mid. I would never start him as centre mid, but I would have said start him centre mid, play Joe Gomez as a right back. This was an opportunity to do that because
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask a question on Klopp quickly? Yeah. Does he ever change anything in terms of tactically? Because I'm not a Liverpool fan. I'm not going to pretend I watch the game. But
he's made tactical changes.
I've seen him make tactical changes. I've seen him do it against Man City.
Yeah, I feel like City is when he changed. I feel like if you remember, we did the 4-2-4. We did the 4. He's changed a lot with.
I'm talking about not
personnel.
I don't mean the one-offs. I'm talking about generally speaking. Like we've seen we've seen Pep, for instance, do numerous things in terms of we don't know how Klopp's. When you're playing a Pep team, like when Arsenal played Man City, he changed the way they play. He changed the way they built up, and that completely confused our players. We saw it against Newcastle. We'll talk about that again a little bit later. But does Klopp do anything different? Because that's one of the things I look at Klopp and be like, it's always the same thing. And there might be the one-off game where it might change ever so slightly, or you might be question. I'm just asking you. So this is how I go ahead. I'll answer it then. So
no. I'm saying ask me a rhetorical question.
Pardon?
You asked me a rhetorical question.
No, I'm just asking because I don't see it. So you might know more than me. That's what I'm asking. Does he change?
No. I feel like the most I've seen him change, not in game. I've seen the most him change formation wise is around obviously now doing the whole inverted thing, but I think it's always been around when he plays Pep. I see that a lot. I see him. That's when he's trying the most. Like that competition is just there, and just like boom. But no, I don't see that. And that's one of the things that he's been. When I used to podcast before and whatnot, that's one of the things we used to always bring to the light is when the greatest managers adapt and tactically make even like in-game changes and whatnot, and you don't see that much from Klopp. He's very like this is just high tempo. Formation might change, but it's still the same in-game tactics and whatnot. So no, I don't see it. But Bournemouth as well. I think Bournemouth played well. I feel like it's just a personnel thing where you see the quality of players was the difference. Dominic, what a player, man! What a signing! What a player! Suits our style. he's a great player. I think he could fit. He's just a beautiful player, man. He just bar the dive. I think he's an amazing player, and there's still so much more to get. Salah missing a penny now. He's missed the last 3, so maybe it's time for a little.
Listen. The best players miss penalties. That's how it goes.
You're only saying that because of
Salah's still going to take the next one because he's that guy.
You're only saying that because of Saka.
Ronaldo misses penalties. Messi misses penalties. Do you think they're going to take the next one? Them men they're saying I'm that guy. I don't care if I miss.
But wouldn't you say the difference is that I think Salah's missed his last 3 in a row, and the same criticism I have for Saka. If you miss 3 or 4 in a row, then you need to come off. Because I think he missed against Arsenal. He skied one against Bournemouth last season.
That's how I am though, you know. That's the all jokes aside. I'm like that though. You missed the last. There's a few. You missed a few. Yeah, take a break.
Because Ronaldo and them, they do miss because they're human. So let's keep.
But they don't miss 3 back.
They don't miss 3 or 4 in a row.
Well,
and penalties are supposed to be like guaranteed goals almost. Like you get a penalty, you're expected to score. If you get 10, you'd expect 9 at least. So
I would drop him as a football fan because we got other penalty takers. Like we got people who take penalties.
McAllister's cold at pens.
Yeah, but so is Dominic. Like they all can take penalties.
I'm saying to you, McAllister's pens are cold.
No, of course,
they're always.
Yeah, of course. And definitely. Let's say we got options, so I would take him off. The only thing is, I hate to be the manager who said he's not taking penalties though. I can't lie to you. This is what I got.
That ain't gonna work out too well. Still,
even on FM, you think I hate pulling like captaincy and I hate that. The whole changing room don't love me no more, bro.
Soft management, bro. Soft management.
But if I'm looking at the game here, from my point of the whole game here, starting at the very beginning, I'll start with Van Dijk here because I said it in our group, like he's not that guy no more. He is not one of the best. He's good.
I'm gonna say your word. Just make sure you word this properly.
He's a good defender. He is not one of the best defenders, I'll tell you that. He's so standoffish. He's so iffy in his approach to defending. It's hard to any player that really attacks him. If it's a 1v1, there's a serious issue for him. And if he has to cover like space in behind anytime like fast, that's a serious issue for him as well now. So I'll start with that. Van Dijk, I'm not too sure about how that's going to work out depending on who his partner is next to him.
Nah, it's going to work out, man. You're being too... I hate being too harsh. He ain't bounced from the injury the way he's bounced, but I think he can see some areas and he needs to adapt to... He can't stand off no more because he definitely ain't that centre back no more. He has to adapt because of...
But his problem is that if he doesn't stand off and he gets tight, he can't recover anymore.
He's lost his aura. That's the way I look at him. He used to have an aura about him.
People don't want to take him on. Yeah, they don't want to.
Players would be scared. Now you kind of feel like...
Bro, man like Solanke's squaring you up, ready to do you, fam. That ain't what the hell.
Nah, I hear it. You know, I'm not a biased fan, and I agreed when you said it. I just made sure you worded. I made sure you were saying he's done that. He's not done that. He's just not on that caliber. They said they don't fit. Like Mr. Rice
he had O in his field right there. O's getting emotional.
They don't run at him no more. They don't fit. Sorry, they run at him now. They don't fit him. It was stay away from that side. Go play and go play tonight. You might get pinned. No, bro. I don't care. I'm running at all of them.
We'll talk about the first goal you conceded. Yeah, obviously Van Dijk gets it. He tries to pump it into Trent on the inverted. Trent's on the inverted CM. He's trying to pump it into Trent. And I thought it was a madness. Like, Trent is good on the ball, which is why you can play him in the middle. But he can't turn on the ball. He's not a centre mid. He doesn't have the awareness, the over-the-shoulder look. So when Van Dijk pumps it into him, he doesn't look. Obviously, his first touch is poor, which is why he even goes back towards Van Dijk in the first place. And then obviously it gets nicked off. And from there, it's just trouble in it. There's no recovery. But he needs to receive it in spaces where he doesn't need to turn around or where there's so much space that he can just turn around free, like Xhaka. You know when Xhaka used to receive it last year on the 8 he's receiving it in attacking positions where there's space. And if he does lose it, there's people to recover. If Trent loses it, that's what happens.
That's the reason I asked about Klopp, because I don't look at Klopp as being an outstanding coach. I think he's a very good manager and he has a style of play. He always plays the same brand of football. And it's that rock and roll type of football, high press, high energy, overwhelm opponents, and then, you know, all out attack in terms of pace and power out on the wings. So that's the way I've always looked at Klopp. So now that he's trying something a little bit different, I feel like he doesn't know how to coach it. I don't feel like he understands how to do the inverted role. It's never been in his repertoire ever to begin with. He's never, even from like Dortmund days, when you compare the Dortmund side to the Liverpool side, the build-up and the way they play is exactly identical. There's no difference. So for me, him trying this Pep Guardiola system now, it's just not him. So that's why I feel like there's going to be issues, because he can't coach in that way.
Yeah, he does a certain way of playing. Everyone was getting on to Trent, obviously, because he lost the ball. And yeah, his first touch was poor. But Van Dijk absolutely fires it into him. I don't know if he gives him any information, because if you're going to fire it, as the centre-back, obviously you can see the picture. So I'm firing it into your feet there. I'm saying turn straight away. So I don't know if Trent's got or he's heard turn, because he's come straight back in. So he's taken the touch to bring it back towards Van Dijk or to go towards his other centre-back. But like, if you're firing it at him like that, the shout should have been turn on it. Now you've taken out two players out the game. Instead, his touch was poor, Bournemouth pounced, and that was the goal. But like I said, last year, Trent, towards the end of last season, Trent was, he looked all right in the inverted role, but predominantly he had Fabinho picking it up first and then him getting on the ball. Now he's going to pick it up first, and he's not that guy. He can't turn on it. So if you can't turn on it, it's only going to go backwards, and that makes no sense. Liverpool then obviously done what they did. Salah was a problem. Diaz's goal was crazy. Dominic was passing, bossing it, taking a few snapshots. And it was just how it goes, isn't it? That's how it goes.
Could have been a higher scoring game. If you think about a lot of chances, Jota looked alive as well. But yeah, I just want to say sorry, guys. It's temperature being outside. My phone couldn't hack it. My phone, my laptop, everything couldn't hack it.
The rest of us are in our house and that, just chilling.
Well, but you know what? Yeah, I don't see how this inverted role is going to work at Liverpool, because when you look at the rest of the teams, or when you look at Pep and you look at Arteta and the way they do it, it's about positional play. That's their football. So everybody knows where to be on the pitch. Liverpool don't play that type of football. It's rock and roll. It's not as structured as the Cities or the Arsenals. It's not a machine like. It's more off the cuff, more energy, more expression.
This is how I would describe it. Liverpool are playing at like a grand tempo, you get me? Like they're in them beats per second, whereas Arsenal and Man City are more playing R&B. You get like we're playing boys to men, and fucking Liverpool, you lot are playing rock and roll. That you lot are doing some smashy smash.
From Linkin Park.
You lot are playing Linkin Park. That's what you lot are doing. We're playing R&B football. Jagged Edge and that, and you lot are playing Linkin Park. And you lot don't know how to slow it down to the jagged edge, because you don't have the players that are capable to do that.
Yeah, I think we agree that this inverted it's like we're doing inverted. We're trying to do inverted, but it's done at 100 miles per hour. Like, it's crazy. So I definitely see it. It was done to get the best out of Trent as well. Like one of the reasons was to get the best Trent, and I still don't think we're getting these 2 games. We're getting the best out of Trent. I ain't seen too many positives from him in this inverted right back. Where in the last season, I could see a lot. He added more assists to his game. He did all that, but I'm not seeing it. Like you said, and I think that's what, like you said to me, it's because he's now coming to the ball to receive it and trying to turn. And he's just getting pressed, so he's just getting the ball, he's just switching to the other side. Like, he's not getting the ball, turning around, looking up and saying, okay, where's the better part? It's just that fancy across the ball pass, which then doesn't take no one out of the game. It just means the players that are pressing goes from the left to the right.
But that's not Trent's strength either. Trent's not really a build-up play. Trent, for me, is one of the best players in the world in the final third. He's a person that creates. You put him in the other opposition. You put him in the other half, and that's when he's able to dig out crosses or passes, and that's where he excels. So you wouldn't necessarily want him with his back to goal in his own half. That's not his game. You know, he's a high risk, high reward kind of player in terms of his deliveries are just as good as KDB's in terms of what he creates. And from a fullback, there's nobody in world football like him.
Really, if you want to invert, you have to invert on the left side. Robbo's got to go, and Trent's basically got to do what Ben White does, and then pick his moments when to be on the edge. Because Salah, that's what he's got to do. He can't invert because he just doesn't want in them position.
I don't think either of them can do that role. Like
I think Trent can invert personally. I just think the way in which you do it different.
The way, exactly. But
the way you do it is it wouldn't be identical to it. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
No. I would say I'm actually agreeing with you. The way you want him to do it, it's compared to the way he should be. Like the way we're telling him to do it, or the way he should be. It's a lot, making his job a lot harder. I've even thought about, is it even worth it?
Yeah. So what you would probably do is you'd probably have McAllister or whoever your sixers coming in a bit more to help with the build up, and then Trent going further up the pitch, and that's probably how you would invert, as opposed to having Trent be the lead build up person.
Just like that's what Kenny was saying. That's the difference. Fab will pick it up,
and
pass to Trent, and then Trent a bit further. But you see Trent like basically behind the strikers a lot of the time.
Right. That's where you'd want. That's where you'd want Trent. If he's going to invert, you'd want him to be a free roaming creative, because that's what he is. He's not a natural defender. He's
take the shackles off this thing.
Yeah, he's your most creative outlet by far, and your best passer on the ball.
Before we move on, though, I do want to shout out to Bournemouth. They showed resilience, and I think they were quite good until it was just a difference of quality, I think, and they got tired, bro. It's hard.
It would be nice though. It's hard to go to Anfield and pick up anything. Obviously, we always know that Liverpool got goals in them, and that's just what happened.
Yeah, but we were talking about this before. Two games, 4 points. I'm okay with that. With no recognized number 6 and no, I'll take it. If you told me this, halfway through last season, whatever. I think last season we didn't even make the top 4 once all season. Like, it wasn't even there. We sat in there pretty for a little bit until you guys' game, and I was like, okay, let's see what's going on there.
But as we move to see the standards drop. It's sad. It's a sad thing, boys. It's a sad state of affairs.
City with a routine win. Like, this one hurts me a lot, because I was talking about it a lot, and I thought Newcastle were gonna. I thought they were gonna show something. Like, you have aspirations to be there. You're signing X, Y, and Z. Their fans are starting to come out of the woodworks a bit now as well. And it's like, bro, they showed nothing. Like, the score was only 1-0, but it was one of the most convincing 1-0s I've seen. Like, City sat there, created a few chances, passed it around, and I don't feel like Newcastle showed anything. What they're made of, and Mr. White spoke about it the other day, of the middle three, like having the legs and imposing themselves physically, they did none of that. It was just so, it was a masterclass by Pep, the way he managed it and the way he put players in certain positions, because Foden started on the right, but he was basically playing as a second striker, and Kyle Walker was just playing the right wing, back, forward, wherever the hell he wanted to do on the right.
The whole lane was his.
Yeah, let's talk about it though. Haaland was non-existent again. Non-existent. No KDB, non-existent Haaland, bro.
You remember the start of last season, though, when they signed him, they were saying, okay, when they were saying, he's messing up how City play, it was like, wait for KDB to come back. And then that's when he really started get into another gear as well. When you actually remember, the start of the season, it was no De Bruyne. It was once he came back, it was like, yeah, that's what I needed.
Yeah, I was really disappointed with Newcastle's performance. I don't feel like they actually went out and put on a show, or they displayed their strengths. And they might be happy with the fact that it was only 1-0, but I think Eddie Howe will know that it was 1-0 in scoreline, but the way the game was played, I don't think City came out of second gear. I think they just kept the ball and kept it moving. It was a pretty simple game for them. Foden was popping up in positions wherever he wanted. Rodri basically controlled the whole middle of the pitch. Akanji was drifting in. Garvero was very good at the back defensively with Diaz. I think it was such a simple game for them. I don't think City would have even expected the game to be so simple. And you could see from Pep's reaction at the end of the game that it was a big win, and he actually knew that he put on a masterclass there. He showed Eddie Howe levels. Like, there's levels to this. Don't think that you're the new boys on the block and ready to come for this game.
I can't lie. For me, watching that game, I'm gonna be very honest with you. That game put me to sleep for a little piece. And watching City, I've said it a few times. Watching City is extremely boring. There's nothing off the cuff. There's no freedom they play with. It's very much like a machine. Everybody knows what they're doing. They do it efficiently, extremely pragmatic. And it was like almost like a death by 1,000 cuts. Almost in this case, it's death by 1,000 passes. And it just demoralized Newcastle, the way they just kept the ball. It's so risk averse in the way they play. They play so horizontally, and they don't force the forward passes. And I've got to shout out Kovacic firstly, because I was never a big fan of the signing at first, but he was finding Foden all the time between the lines. Like, Foden was always between the lines, and Newcastle could not deal with that. It was
Kova's a problem, you know. He's a big problem.
He was, yeah, he definitely was. I mean, my big critique for him was that he was replacing Gundogan,
he's no good,
who has end product, right? And Kovacic is the furthest thing from that. He doesn't excel in the final third. He's someone that is good dribbling out of tight situations and releasing the ball. That's where, for me, Kovacic shines. So when they signed him to replace Gundogan, you make the comparisons. You're like, well, they're two different players. But against Newcastle, he was evading that midfield press from Newcastle, and Foden was always between the lines, between defence and midfield, and he kept picking up them pockets all throughout the game, and he just kept exploiting that. And Newcastle they couldn't deal with that. They really couldn't deal with that, and I couldn't believe how much space Foden was afforded. I thought Foden was outstanding. Like you said, Chinny, I feel like that Newcastle hype train almost kind of got derailed a little bit after that game. I know it's one game, and you don't want to be too reactive, but people were talking about Newcastle after one game against Villa, like they're in for the title. They're going to be up there. And almost like when they've gone to play City have shown them the levels. And you kind of sit back and think, all right, you're still building. You're not there yet. Because like City, like let's look at it very openly. City just came back from playing the Super Cup in Athens. You've had a week's rest. You really should be sticking on them. You should have really made that game a more tighter affair than it should be if you have aspirations to become title challengers this season, like a lot of people were doing so after that one performance. So I felt like it was a lesson to say, like, know your role. Like, you're not there yet. You're not them guys yet. You still need to come up a few levels. But all in all, the game was boring for me. And
that's what they're really good. But away from home against big teams, they tend to put out that same kind of performance. At home, they're really good. Away from home, they're not. They're really poor. They don't really show the same grit and determination and style of play.
What I will say, though, is that Man City scare me even more when I see this, because if you look at the amount of chances teams create against them at home, it's hardly anything. It's so dominant, it's so robotic, it's so controlled that teams ain't really even troubling them. I think there was only one occasion I can remember where I think it was Rodri made a bad pass. Wilson was running at the back line. I think somebody else was coming on the overlap. I think it might have been Almiron, and he made the wrong decision. And that was it that I can recall. That was an opportunity they could have done better in. So this City in particular scared me because I don't feel like they're going to concede as much opportunities because they're just so controlled and so robotic. And it's almost they've taken this Haaland thing and they've kind of used that whole Terminator-like, machine-like analogy and just put that towards the team. And I think I saw a stat about their home form and how they've won 17 consecutive home games and scored something like 55 goals, conceded 7 goals, 11 clean sheets. Like, that's just ridiculous. Like, to score 55 goals in 17 games. Obviously, that spans back to last season, but for me, it just shows everybody, the whole league, what you're dealing with and what you need to beat to win this, to win the Premier League.
Yeah,
I still
agree. If you look at, like, I think I called it. I was never on this Newcastle hype. I think they've done well. I don't think they've achieved or anything like that. But I was always saying, like, is like you're in the Premier League. It takes a lot. I still don't think they have a big enough squad to compete. I still think there's a lot of like it's like they wanted to skip their teething issues. Like that they can still get the teething in. They're in a lot of competitions, the big boy competition, and that game was boring as hell. That was a big chance and an advantage for them to really get it going and show the rest of the Premier League that we're here to compete. And they didn't even show anything. If anything, I thought looking at them, I'm thinking, is this the Newcastle you think is going to go far? I don't even I know it's still early doors, but I was very surprised. That was a huge opportunity for them to really do some damage, and the game that should have favoured them due to the Super Cup. And it was a boring game. Like I put the game on TV and I was like going kitchen and back and whatnot during the game. Usually I'm stuck, like I don't really do that. I wait till half time. I was like, this game's kind of boring still. But again, I agree with Mr. White. I feel City, even though they're like, I spoke heavily about, replacements and, Gundogan and, they need a winger, they need this, they need that. But I feel like they always find a way. And if they can do it like that and not play at 100%, Jesus Christ.
You know what? City suck the life out of teams and they suck the joy out of football. That's the way I see it right now. I look at it and I'm just like, yo.
It can exist, Nigeria.
Yeah, I'm just like, yo, like this ain't it. Like, there's no excitement. You don't see. There's no moments that get you up off your seat as a spectator. And I'm a neutral. I was watching that game. Of course, I wanted Newcastle to get a result. I'm not going to sit and pretend, but you want to be entertained. You want to see moments that get you up off your seat. And there was hardly anything. Like the most you get up is a Foden touch. I mean, that was what all I had to look for in that game. Like that was the highlight, and that's not much. So, that's Pep though, man. The sooner he leaves, the better it is for the league because he's taking the piss. He's absolutely taking the piss.
I feel like I do think that they're still weaker this year. I get what you're saying in terms of they don't look that vulnerable, but I still think that they're weaker, and I don't think they'll score the same amount of goals as they did last year. They're missing. When I look at City now, it's less about what they're doing to other teams, and I watch them and I think, how much damage is your team going to do to my team? Because in the end, that's where I can see it coming down to. How much damage is your team when we play each other? How much damage is this team going to do to mine? And I'm not that wary of it. I'm not going to lie to you. And then after that, I'm not that scared of watching it go side to side against. I feel like we're quite good at that. Obviously, we'll talk about Arsenal later because we kind of had to endure that yesterday. But I'm not too fussed watching them, thinking, oh my God.
Is, though, you play them twice. They play the rest of the league, and there's a lot of those teams that they will they'll kill that joy and break you down, and then they win that game. A lot of those teams that they'll be playing, I think you guys might get some points off them, but they're just gonna wear down the rest of the team.
City are like, they do like psychological torture. That's the way I see them. They're just torture teams. They're waterboarding teams as they play them, and they're making them break. And that's what scares me more than us playing them aspect of it. It's more like, what are they going to do to the rest of the teams in the league? And how boring are they going to be, and how conservative are they going to be, to the point where they're able to create that gap by shifting the ball left to right for 80 odd minutes, and then finding that one or two little moments where they can push the ball forward and then capitalize. Because that's the way they are now. They're so low risk, and so all about
like
control.
For a mistake or something like
A gap, yeah. And we saw that on the first day. You saw Pep like going absolutely crazy at Haaland because Haaland wanted a through ball from Bernardo Silva. And Pep was happy with Bernardo because he recycled the ball, because he didn't push the ball forward to a run that Haaland felt like he could capitalize from. And that just shows you that kind of like the ideology and the mentality of the team and the manager, which is we ain't forcing that ball forward unless we know 100%, or we know that it's almost a 90% chance of it going to that player and there being a real, yeah. Otherwise, don't do it.
It's funny because they just signed Doku from Rennes, and his player profile is very different to a Mahrez, to a Grealish. It's closer to a Sane, to a Sterling, and Pep's kind of got rid of them kind of players. So it's going to be very interesting to see if he can pick up the way City play the game, if he's playing out wide especially, because he's more of a 100-mile-per-hour kind of player. And I feel like it's hard to drill that kind of gameplay, that tactical know-how into them kind of players. So it's an interesting one that they even got him, because for me, I'm not sure if it's the right fit, and I don't see him as a starter.
But Pep's not scared to buy and ship later on in life, or like ship and put on the bench. He's not. I don't think he's scared to. I think if he's not adapting, he's not one out, it'll be okay on the bench. Okay, we'll get rid of you and find another person.
I think Doku's going to be someone that's going to mostly be a bench player personally, and using the Carabao Cups.
Him playing with
I feel like when they need a goal, when they need some chaos, when they need something other than that, if this death by 1,000 passes doesn't work, then you have a man that can PMP, run down the wing, do something sporadic, create something out of nothing. But more time or not, we're just going to try and pass the ball to death and control the game in that type of manner and win the game that way. Because it's all about probability. Like, if I have the ball for 90% of the time, that means there's only a 10% chance that you can score. That's the way Pep looks at the game. The more possession they have, the less minutes in the game where you can score. So someone like Doku's not going to be his natural go-to, but it's going to be something that he can go to if they're behind or if they're struggling to break down a team.
I want to change it up, change up as well. Like, you need that whatever card you call it, like that one card. Yeah, the wild card. So I hear it.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense. We'll see how that pans out, and then we move on to another showing that I enjoyed to watch. 10-man West Ham put 3 past Chelsea, and we spoke really high. Well, we kind of spoke in a decent way about Chelsea in the previous episode, about how they performed against Liverpool. Poch got their young players kind of gelling, kind of playing a bit of ball, juky kind of stuff. Against West Ham, that went out the window. All I saw was Sterling back to his usual self, doing absolute madness, and no striker that can finish, no other attacking player really coming in that really wants to score. Gallagher doing his usual just run around, because I don't know what else he does. And Enzo was just chilling. Like, Enzo doesn't offer too much. Last week, everyone was going crazy, like, what a player. Yeah, he picks it up and he's tidy. But bro, you cost 100 million. That's the basics. Of course you better pick it up and be tidy. What else are you doing? Are you mashing stuff up? No. Are you affecting the game in attacking areas? No. So like, you're tidy on the ball, but that's nice. So is Jorginho. I don't really get why we paid, or why they paid 100 mil for someone who doesn't affect the game as much as he should. He's not a physical presence. He's not a calming presence because the team still plays at 100 miles per hour. And all I saw was the ball. It was get it to Sterling and see what Sterling can do. And to be fair to Sterling, he done a lot. And there was just no one on the end of anything. We had West Ham were really good defensively. Moyes done what he does. Antonio does what he does up there. Absolutely bullied Chelsea centre backs. I told people the other day that Thiago Silva, you can't be challenging for things with Thiago Silva. He's a good player, but his time is over. He has no legs. He's just very smart. He can read the game, but your legs still can't catch up when the game's going past you. The Sassy, oh my God, he's a donkey, bro. Like he's so, like his body and his brain are not working in cohesion.
He ain't got that coordination, yeah?
He ain't got the coordination, and Antonio's running him around. Antonio, you know, he's got
Antonio's a bully, though.
He's got 5 Premier League goals last year.
But I can't lie, man. Antonio there's a few strikers in that league that give me a bit of a worry every time you go away to them. And Antonio is one of them. And Awani is another one. Those strikers, they're brutes. On their day, they will give any centre half a torrid. Ivan Toney is another one. He's not even just he's a lot more better than those two in terms of technically. He offers way more. But on their day, they just give your centre halves a problem physically, aerially, especially Antonio, like running the channels, like the way he brushed Colwell for that goal.
Bro, wait.
Get off me, little man. Get off me, little man.
How much was they quoting for Cole? 60, 70 M's, bro. Because he can pass the ball forward. He's taking the piss.
It was his team that wanted him.
Because he worked well in the Brighton's the minute. That Brighton's leading the way now.
What? Because he can pass the ball forward, everyone thinks he's the guy. Big man, he can't defend. He's lightweight.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't get how anybody looks at that Chelsea lineup and says, "Yeah, they're gonna do things," isn't it? Like I get they signed, Casado, they got their man there, but I don't get.
Not even start with Casado, bro.
Bro, I don't even get how they.
And Paqueta was in that head early.
Right. I think the headline though was 106 million, yeah, and 150 million, yeah, on one man that fails to score the penalty and one man that gives away a penalty. That's the funny thing about it, right? That man there could have settled the game. Both of them had match decisive decisions or the implications of the game. And Caicedo's friggin' cameo was probably one of the worst thinkers I've seen, yeah, for a Premier League debut. Right, it was horrible. He was giving the ball away left, right, and centre.
For somebody that's in the Premier League already, like you may not say, all right, tactically ain't had enough time, but you're there to defend and run. And his best traits would look like his worst traits in that game. Like he went running, and he didn't make no chance.
Extra. They just had to keep recycling the ball and moving it.
But you know what the biggest difference is? You know, we talk about, and this is something I always say, systems sometimes hide or can help a player shine. Like we saw, you're going to get pissed off again. Oh, come and bring it back to Arsenal, right? Right. But I'll give you an example. We saw Xhaka previous to the last season be very meaty, right? And then last year we saw the best of Xhaka. We found a system and we found a place in the team where he could shine that hid his flaws, but also managed to kind of highlight his strengths. Caicedo is a good ball winner, but he's not a Kante in the sense of Kante can cover a lot of ground and win the ball back. That's not Caicedo's. Caicedo's good at it. Right? Yeah, a lot of people make this comparison because they're both small, they're both black, both diminutive, both CDMs. Yeah, that's the reality. Yeah, I mean, you're like, bro, like they look like each other, so therefore they must be each other. Play same position, cool, that's them. But in reality, Kante covers ground. Yeah, whereas Caicedo and wins the ball, right? Whereas Caicedo is good in a structure of pressing within that structure, winning the ball back. But if you leave him with large amount of spaces to defend, like a Kante can, you'll see him get exposed more often. And that Brighton system helped Caicedo shine in terms of his strengths. But there was a lot more space. There was a lot more space against West Ham where Caicedo was left to defend, and there wasn't that same level of support.
A lot, because if you remember Kante, it would be times when Chelsea needed to win the game, so everybody was upfield and Kante was in the middle. So he's out here just finding space and he's running and hacking a man down and whatnot. So you're definitely that Caicedo's gonna be exposed to that a lot. So if that's not something he can do or something he can do naturally, Chelsea are in trouble, and Lavia's not going to be the one to do that either.
Yeah. Remember,
but Brighton told me a dream too, though, because even when him playing as a 6 and then him playing as that inverted right back, I was like, oh damn, like what can't he can?
He can defend.
Looking at his, like you said, him being exposed to weaknesses, you're like, okay, you should have stepped to the left there. You should have, you know, and whatnot. So I can't lie, he even got bodied a couple of times still. So I don't know.
But this, you know, what it is? It's about systems, though. Like, because, like I said, you got to have. If you're trying to press, you can't. It's like, I'll give you an example. Your defense, you ain't got 4 bad defenders. Well, you might have one in Trent, yeah. But your 3 other defenders are solid, right? Van Dijk, Konate, they're all solid, right? But the difference is that there's so much space for attackers to run at them that all of a sudden you can't expect them to be world class. Because top level players are running at them with space. And it's hard to
judge Van Dijk. Don't write Van Dijk off until we get a proper CDM in. When we get a proper one in there and the man's not running at him 24/7, you know what I mean? And then get him.
Don't get me wrong. Of course, he's declined. There is a decline to Van Dijk, right? But I'm saying to you, you allow a player to run at him 10 times, you're going to look at him a bit more, you know, you're going to have a side eye when you look at Van.
We're exposed to one-on-ones or whatnot, and it shouldn't be. It's too much for a team that's trying to get back in Champions League or a team that almost won everything again. Like, too much.
So that's what I'm trying to say is the problem with Chelsea. There isn't that same level of system there where Caicedo can shine. So we saw him get exposed. We'll see, and we will continue to see him unless Poch does something different. You know, but it was a howler. It was an absolute howler of a cameo from him, like on the ball, off the ball.
Poch doesn't play this 3 at the back system ever. Yeah? So he's coming to Chelsea, who obviously have played that 3 at the back system before, and he's putting it into place. Yeah, but the only reason for me why teams ever play 3 at the back is because their centre backs are not good enough to play 2.
Yeah, I've always thought that.
But when they play 4, because I thought Colwell was playing left back.
Yeah, so they took off Chilwell towards the end and then went to a back 4, but they start with the back 5.
No. Colwell was playing. They played because that's what I was a bit confused about.
They had Chilwell, Colwell, Thiago Silva, Disasi, and Gusto all on the pitch. That's a back 5.
Apparently, Chilwell was playing more like a left winger. He was playing as a left. He was playing as left winger because
if he's playing left, that's a howler. That's a howler.
Yeah, that is a howler. But yeah, he was playing as a left winger because they were building up, right? When you saw them build up, it was Chilwell was actually playing as a left back as they were building up. Then you had Disasi and you had Thiago Silva and you had Malo Gusto on the right. And I think Chilwell was playing left wing as support for Colwell because obviously Colwell's not a natural left back. But they weren't building up in a back 5. They weren't really they weren't even defending really in a back 5.
That's the issue then. If you think that you can defend with Thiago Silva and Disasi as a back 2, then you're in trouble. With Enzo in front of them, you're in trouble.
Disasi's a stiff one. I've always said when I saw Chelsea sign him, I was just like, from what I saw and what I'd seen of him, I was like, he's not that guy. All he's got on him is a good ping. He's strong in the air, bit like a French black Harry Maguire. That's the way I looked at it. That's the way I looked at him. You know what I'm saying to you? That's exactly how I saw him. He's not an athlete. He's not the best defensively. He's not the best.
Man, we're comparing him to Rudiger. He is not levels like that.
Oh, bro, Rudiger's an athlete, bro. Rudiger can run a man down. He can stay with some of the fastest strikers and the most physical strikers in the league.
He wants that. That's
not that.
He invites that type of energy.
He likes it.
And I want to talk on Enzo, yeah, because I've seen a lot of talk about Enzo being compared to Cesc Fabregas and all these kind of players. And
Yeah,
I'm
watch
saying
it.
to you, I can't lie. Huh?
I had to follow some more Twitter accounts. I ain't seen that once. Foolishness.
Bro, bro, Chelsea fans talking about him like he's the second coming. And I was scratching my head because, and I said it to you last time. I said,
Fab was doing this at 16, bro, 17.
Yeah. I was saying to you last week, I said, I want to see what Chelsea do against the low block. I want to see how creative they are. Yeah, how the likes of, Enzo, what Enzo can create for them in a low block. Because it's all well doing it against Liverpool when Liverpool are going to come onto you and they're going to leave spaces because they're going to attack. So there's going to be a lot more gaps in the game, right? And it's not, for me, the hardest thing is not to shine when there's gaps. It's to shine when there's no gaps, to find, that little bit of something out of nothing.
Yeah.
And we saw against West Ham, he struggled in that regards. And it was beautiful. For me, it was beautiful to see Chelsea lose. All that money spent, all the millions spent, and you still can't buy a win. And I actually saw something funny about Chelsea. I think it was on Talk Sport or something, about how under Ted Bowley, Chelsea have more signings than they do Premier League wins. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is mad when you think about it. I think they've got 24. They've got 24 signings and they've got 11 wins.
All that money and they ain't bought a driller. They spent all that bread.
They spent like $1 billion or something, no?
They ain't bought a gunman up front. You're crazy, fam. Like, you bought the Mac and you didn't buy the clip. That's what they did. Like, what are they?
They said they should bring Lukaku back.
Come on, man. Like, it was crazy, and I loved to see it. Paqueta was having fun in there. Antonio was doing his bullying stuff. It was great. It was a great watch. I even saw Alvarez come on, throwing himself about. That was good to see.
Shout out James Ward-Prowse as well, man. Man slapped that delivery on the money. Yeah, he put that ball right where Aguerd wanted it for that first goal, boy. Was it Aguerd that scored the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, right? Yeah. Like, his delivery should...
2 minutes before that, because they had a free header. I think Zuma had a free header like 2 minutes before that. 2 minutes later, same thing again. So they ain't learning. But Chelsea got what? They got
any dead ball situation is just a penny. It don't matter if it's a free kick, it's a corner, it's a penny. It's all pennies though.
And you know what's mad as well? I think they're after that Seville striker I saw, El Nasseri.
El Nasseri.
Bro, this is Moyes football gonna be.
He's got his Fellaini.
Dangerous, bro.
We had this Fellaini again.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, this is gonna be prime Moyes football. You're gonna have Ward-Prowse deliveries with Aguerd, Zuma, Souček. El Nasseri, all attacking headers, bro. El Nasseri in the air is a beast. You can't finish with Toffee with his feet. He's hit and miss with his feet, but in the air, that brother there is a problem, bro. He's a problem. So, but yeah, man, shout out Ward-Prowse. Yeah, slap that delivery on the money, 30 million in this market. Good signing for West Ham. Antonio. I rate Antonio. You know why? Because he talks like crud on his podcast, yeah? He's all talking his crud on his podcast. And laughing at Richarlison and that, man.
He said, me 1, Wilson 1, Richarlison 0, bro. He talks that smack.
Yeah, I'm saying to you, yeah. Like, he talks that talk, right? He's not the best. Don't get me wrong. He's not the most prolific player in the world. But he talks that talk on the podcast. And then he went to Chelsea. Chelsea came to West Ham. Man, body Colwell. The Sassy didn't want none of it either. He backed off, yeah. And man slapped it bottom bins, and that was a finish. That was a top finish.
Let me tell you the maddest thing about the goal. He went through, shrugged off Colwell like a child, and then he set himself, yeah, and he done the little Beckham swing and calmed himself down, yeah, and then he whacked it. I was like, bro, what is this? Man done the little. I was like, right, and then he just rifled it. It was a madness.
You know what it is? You know what that little thing was? That was like a warning to Cole. Don't you come back? You know, like when your parent would give you a little beating, bro.
Just shrug you off.
Come back, man. Yeah, no. Don't you come back, like a warning thing. But yeah, no, man. I think it was nice to see, man. It was nice to see, man.
West Ham 2 games 4 points. Chelsea 2 games 1 point. They got Luton at home next. They don't pick up a win there, then it's starting to see big trouble.
There you go.
Last but not least, our team, Mr. Y, Arsenal. See what tricky away fixture at Selhurst. We knew it was going to be like, apart from last year where we won convincingly, it's always a hard place for us to go. Monday Night Football, Arteta's never won in 4 tries. This was his 5th try. He's now beaten that, taken that on, won his first game Monday Night Football, first away game of the season, and a derby as well, London derby. Going down to 10 men, it wasn't the best performance. It was funny because I thought our sharpest player was the player that caused Arsenal fans the most issues as well. Like Nketiah was sharp yesterday, very sharp. He created one more or less himself, hit the post, unlucky. The next one he goes through, and I feel like he tried to channel his inner Messi when he should have just slotted it home.
I know that's inner Messi. Yeah, you're doing a bit too much there, but inner Messi.
I don't know what he tried, but I don't know. That's that pro clubs thing. You're telling man, don't chip again, bro. Why you trying to chip the goalkeeper? He's not like, what are you doing?
Yeah, and then so he missed that one. I know Arsenal fans were raging all over the world when he done the little dink. But then, you know, the fast thinking wins us a penalty, and ultimately that wins us the game. We go on, and Arteta does his usual back 5 line. Obviously, no Rob Holding to come on and defend it anymore, but he's got a new brick wall in there. Saliba's in there doing brick wall. He throws on Gabriel, throws on Kiwor, Ben White. That when Arteta puts that back 5 in place, that's it. It's shot, game done. 10 men, 9, doesn't matter, game done. When that back 5's in place, that's it. And I feel like it was a professional performance. We've done what we needed to do. Came out of 3 points. Not much more you can ask for. You can ask for a better performance going forward, and hopefully we get that against Fulham on Saturday. But Selhurst is a hard place to come. I think they've only lost 2 of their last 10 home games, and that was to us and Man City. So clearly it's a really hard place to go. It's not to be like...
For that game as well, how they set up and how you played, there's a lot of positives to take from it. It was a good defensive display as well. I look at Payet in very right back. I'm still not, but you know, he came there, he did a job, and then what needed to be done, he got the 3 points. I think there's a lot of positives to take from that game. That's the only thing I would add to what you said, Ginny. It's like that game could have been so much harder. On another day, that game so much harder than it was. You set up defensively well, especially how they set up as well. I think again, a lot of positive take out that game. It was a boring game to watch as a neutral, but who cares? You got the 3 points, so that matters.
Yeah, I mean, I felt we started slow. I still feel we're trying to find our rhythm. I don't feel like we've fully clicked yet. I don't feel Martinelli and Havertz have developed that partnership. I saw Havertz making a lot of smart runs on the overlap, and Martinelli always opting not to pass that way. And those runs are always helpful because when you're coming in from the inside of the pitch, centre mid, and you run across to create the overlap, it opens up the pitch and creates space inwards. And it drags a man out of position. So a man naturally has to follow at Havertz towards the wing and create space for others. And there was a lot of opportunities where that could have happened. So I feel like we're still trying to build relationships. I don't think that's still there yet. I thought Declan Rice was outstanding. I felt like he's finally, not want to say finally because only 2 games in, so that's maybe the wrong choice of words, but I feel like he's definitely looking more comfortable in understanding what's required from a low number 6. He was picking up the right positions, where to receive the ball. He was distributing well, breaking up defensively. He's always been a strength, so that's never really been a worry. But in terms of build-up, he was solid. He knew where to collect the ball, popping it off, switching play. Right, so that was really encouraging for me because he's never really played positional football before. He's never played as a lone 6 before neither. So for him to really already show signs that he's starting to understand it and be the dictator of the tempo is a promising sign. I think Eddie was another player who gets a lot of criticism, and I feel like if he was a different name. If he was a fancy signing, I feel like fans would look at him a bit differently. I think he's an easy target. I think you can be critical in terms of he had 2 chances, 2 one-on-one chances, and he should have done better. But in terms of his overall game, I don't think you can criticize him. I feel like he worked the defenders well, pressed hard, he got the penalty, and he was a nuisance. And that's what you want from your strikers and your players. You want players that give their all and give the opposition a tough time. He was turning defenders. He was linking up playing, obviously not to a standard of a Gabriel Jesus, for instance, and Firmino and them type of ballers, but he was, he'd have a defender on his back. He'd pop the ball off to Martin Odegaard, to Saka, and he was doing his thing. And I feel like, yeah, he missed 2 chances, but I feel like you see a lot of talk on Twitter and fans just berating him like he's the worst player ever, and he offers absolutely nothing. And then them questioning why Trossard didn't start. And then questioning why, yeah. And then questioning why Trossard didn't start. And I'm like, I understand why there's a clamour for Trossard to start, because technically Trossard is levels, but there's something different but there is something different that Eddie offers, which is he has the physical capabilities to occupy a back line differently, because he has the threat of running in behind, because he can physically back into them and compete with them. He's not a big striker, but he gives them like a Jesus. He does throw himself around and try to be a presence up there. That's not what a Trossard does. That's not his game. Trossard is more likely to just drop off and find pockets of space, but then there'll be nobody really occupying those centre halves and nobody stretching, moving them around, which then in turn creates positions for other players. So I felt it was, all in all, it was promising. I feel like once it went down to 10 men, we kind of had our backs up against the wall. I was a bit disappointed.
On that point, just throwing a comment out there from the thing. When the red came out, Rice said, "Lads, I got this." He went into West Ham mode. And you know what? He truly went into West Ham mode. He shut everything down. He said, "Yeah, you sit right here and nothing came coming through this spot."
Right. Rice, right. I felt like, you know what, I can't lie, I was a bit disappointed we went down to 10 men, because I would have liked to see us show a bit more kind of composure and retain the ball. I think there was a moment in the game when I think Jorginho came on, Zinchenko came on, Kirill came on, and then all of a sudden, I think it was at the 90th minute, we started popping the ball around and retaining possession. And I was like, that's what I would have wanted to see. Because before we were playing, you know what I'm saying to you, we were playing what Bruno Fernandes and their man play. You know what I mean? They were treating the ball like it's a bomb. You know what I mean? They're just throwing it away like they don't want a ball. And it was just wave after wave from Palace. Whereas when their man came on, we started retaining possession, and that alleviates the pressure and gives us a little bit of a break. And I felt like I would have preferred to see that, because I know City, and I even saw it with Liverpool the other day when Liverpool went down to 10 men. When you lot went down 10 men, it weren't like Bournemouth had you on ropes. You lot still played your game.
They were at home.
Right? Yeah, cool. I get that. But I'm just saying to you, but it's more about the mentality of it, of being able to be like, look, we're going to keep this ball and we're going to show our technical security on the ball.
And they'll show the quality. And
it doesn't have to be for the entire 20 minutes. But I'm just talking about at least a 5-minute spell in that 20 minutes.
I don't think that's the player's fault. I think Arteta went straight away to a back 5, which basically said, "Come and attack us, and we're going to defend our box."
But I would also say, though, even though with that, I feel like the players still have, because we still were in a back 5 when the rest of those players came on. But it was just the technical comfortability of those players, the Zinchenko's, the Jorginho's. Thomas Partey came back into midfield. They're more comfortable to do some of those things that were required in terms of keeping possession. So I would have liked to have seen that. But all in all, man, look, 6 points, 2 out of 2, you can't complain. We're growing into it. It's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. So even though we ain't hit top gear, like, I'm hoping we're trying to do the Man City thing in terms of, moving like a train. Slow build up, but by the time you hit your gear towards the end and you're gone. So
Yeah,
that's what I'm hoping for.
we're home to Fulham this weekend. Hopefully, we put in a performance and get the win. Because after that, we got United at home after that, and I'd love to stuff them. So I feel like we need to really get into our gear this weekend, especially give them players some confidence. Hopefully, Zinchenko will start, and we'll see a better performance all round. To be fair, but yeah, that's it for today's episode of the OTP pod. Remember to turn on your notifications, subscribe.
One thing though, I want to shout out what's it called, Brighton again, boy, because I saw Matoma's goal, and that reminded me of you man remember that Ben Arthur goal against Bolton when he ran from like the halfway line, the way he was jinking man.
It wasn't that good, but it was like,
no, it wasn't. I'm saying it reminded me. I'm not saying identical. I said there was shades of it, like the way if you watch them goals, the way his body feints while he runs and he drops, man, turns, man, is naughty still, and that was a naughty goal. That was a naughty goal.
It was. We know Brighton's your second team, so we'll let you have that.
Yeah, say no more.
Any chance to talk about Brighton? Like, we don't have nothing to talk about Brighton, but always Brighton.
Bro, Brighton are top of the league. You got to give them respect. They're top right now, you know. They've got, what, 8 goals in is it 8 goals or 9 goals in 2 games?
Congratulations for holding the place for somebody else to take it.
Bro. They might take your place. Bro, they might take your place, bro.
Turn on the notifications, subscribe. Find us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Amazon, Apple Music, Spotify, all at the OTP pod. Hashtag off the post if you're tweeting us. Hashtag off the post if you have anything to say in the comments. And yeah, that's been us. Thank you, OJ. Thank you, Mr. Y. I'm myself, Chinny. And we will see you guys after game week 3.